You have these drunk sharks. What if an orca eats its liver? I was getting paid to scuba dive 3 times a day. Dissect an eel. There's no reproduction organ. They swim into the Bermuda Triangle. Aliens.
I have some monumental news for you today. This is the first episode of the Eco Revival podcast, and you are the very first guest.
This is the first episode?
Very first episode. This is the first.
Oh, oh, I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
No. Here we go.
Why don't you give everyone watching a little introduction about you and what you do in the environmental biology world?
My name is Josh Allyn. I got my undergraduate degree in environmental studies and biology from UC Santa Cruz. I'll graduate in 2022. I've done field research courses. Currently living in California. I'm not currently working as a biologist. I was accepted into a lab to get my master's and PhD through a professor. I was relying on federal funding. Right before I started, the Trump administration took over and cut all of it. I moved to a new area. I had kind of the next 4 to 6 years of my life planned out. That all kind of got swept out from under me within 3 weeks of this guy taking office.
Nothing good comes easy either. I'm still a high school student, so I'm not a biologist yet. It feels like every step you take forward, you get pushed 8 back. It's a very difficult field to be in.
At the same time, a very rewarding field. I worked as a research diver for a little bit. I was getting paid to scuba dive 3 times a day, and it was just this is so cool and important for the world. This is so rewarding. I am now making environmental educational content.
That leads me perfectly into my next question. So you have a social media account called Basement Biology. You have 136,000 followers on TikTok. The video, maybe not the one that rose you to that little fame there, but the one that made me notice you was your shark math video. That's the reason I wanted you on the podcast. You said how many Coors Lights it would take to get a great white shark junk, and the fact that someone would sit there and do that math is the best energy in the world. And you did have to preface that video with do not give any animal of any kind any alcohol ever. And the fact that that needs to be reinstated because someone would do that too.
Oh, I know. People, somebody would absolutely do that. A couple years ago, I was in college drinking with friends, which I explained in the video. We just decided that was something that we wanted to know because we had just learned that sharks have huge livers. I think the math in that video is a little wrong. As I'm doing these, I'm learning more. Liver size has nothing to do with how much it takes for them to get drunk. It's fully dependent on pretty much just body weight and total body water content.
You may need to bring out the iPad for this. You may need to bring out a piece of paper. If you would do me the honors, today here, I have an Imperial beer. I just moved to Costa Rica. This is the beer all the dudes drink. It's bigger than my head. 1,000 milliliters, and it's 4.5%.
Okay.
I wondered if you would like to pick a marine animal of your choice, and we could figure out how many of these it would take to get it drunk.
Is there an animal that you would like to choose?
Do you have a favorite, or should I pick one?
It's your podcast. You pick one.
Maybe an Atlantic manta ray.
Manta ray would be sweet. I don't know how much they weigh. Do you know?
I do not know.
It says up to about 3,000 pounds. That is a big boy. So blood alcohol content equals the alcohol consumed over weight times R, which is the Widmark constant for how much water content a person has. This is strictly for humans, and so we're going to treat this manta ray as basically kind of like a human. Males and female humans have different amounts of water content. So for males, they have about 68%. Females have about 55%. So is this going to be a male or female?
Let's do a female.
In that case, it's going to be blood alcohol content equals... This is where it gets a little tricky because we need to rework this equation to not be how much blood alcohol content they are, how many drinks they are. We're going to rework this as alcohol equals blood alcohol content times weight times water content. So now we got this guy, yeah? We're just going to plug in everything. Rough estimate, I would say about 8 or 9 of these big old beers to get a 3,000 pound female manta ray to a 0.08 and 2 drunk to drive.
That was honestly underwhelming. I thought it was going to be a larger number.
This is so tough to do in a quick amount of time. Yesterday I was doing the math on orcas, which is my next video. About 4 or 5 hours of research on orcas. My roommate is a physics major and is so good with math, and so he checks all of my math, which I'm not that good at math. My shark math video did so well, and there's been a pod of orcas down in the Gulf of Mexico that have gotten a lot of attention recently because they're basically performing a new behavior in which they're eating shark livers, great white shark livers, just the liver. Everybody's was kind of asking like, okay, you have these drunk sharks. Now, what if an orca eats its liver? How many livers would it take to get an orca drunk? Like the math that I've been doing for these videos, you have to revert it into the opposite direction, get how much ethanol per liver specifically, not just for the sharks, but how much alcohol is in the liver specifically, and then go back the right direction for orcas. It was so much work. It's really fun and interesting, but it was so much work.
I've done research for videos before, but definitely not 5 hours worth of research. I just posted one about howler monkeys because I recently moved to Costa Rica. I've seen groups of them in our backyards. They live in a river across the street. Have you ever seen a howler monkey that wasn't in a zoo?
Cool. You know, I haven't seen one in the wild. I've seen them in the zoo. I haven't seen them in the wild. So they're just in your backyard?
Yeah, seriously. I walked out the other day and I heard them, and there were like 15 of them in the trees. I've seen toucans here right in front of my face. None of them are in the zoo. They just live here like that. And Costa Rica is known to be one of the more biodiverse countries, ocean-wise.
You're right in the middle of where everything's happening. I know, I'm jealous.
It's definitely a very good place for me to be. I'm very grateful to have ended up here.
I've never been to Costa Rica, but I've heard incredible things. The research going on there is vast.
You look on projects you can jump on, and there are so many of them. I'm sure you've seen the videos of Steve Irwin and Robert doing their crocodile thing, right?
Yeah.
And I had watched those videos before, and they have 10, 20 people, and they have the box, and everything's kind of make sure no one gets their head bit off. I kid you not, it's on video, all they use is a rope. They use a rope. They got 10 people, a rope, and they put it in the back of a pickup truck. That's how they catch these crocodiles, to take them to these reserves and keep them safe until they're healed. A rope, 10 people in the back of a pickup truck. And I'm gonna go get to see it in March.
Wow, that is insane. Dude, I will say I'm pretty comfortable with most animals. Crocs and alligators are a little terrifying to me. And trying to like trap them with just a rope and a pickup truck just sounds so sketchy.
I've seen a shark, like a little shark, one time, and then I've seen manatees, but other than that, I haven't seen a lot of marine life out in the wild yet. It's something I definitely want to do, though.
Oh, I think you absolutely should. I think that's honestly the best part of the job is going out into the wild and seeing these things in their natural habitat and observing them. Zoos and aquariums are spectacular and can be incredible educational facilities, but if you really want to get into it and really want to be a biologist and all this, I think there's nothing better than like getting out in the field and seeing them in their habitat. When I was working as a research diver, I was going to kind of similar places over and over again, and I never really put together like the home range of a fish. I don't know why, this squirrel lives in this tree and this chipmunk is in this tree, right? And they kind of stick to those places. I never thought about fish doing that as well. Going down and diving into the same place and seeing the same fishes in the same places, the whole ecosystem kind of functions the same down there. I just don't know why I never like put that together. I'm like, oh, the ocean's one big place, they all just move around. No, they also have their little homes and they also have their little like daily routines and the things that they do. It's really interesting.
What's your favorite animal interaction you've had?
I was diving in the Mediterranean doing research on the eel population right off the coast of Corsica. Moray eels out there are an apex predator, and they are a really good indicator of the ecosystem health. If eel populations are doing good, the ecosystem's doing good. I was scuba diving and trapping the eels and then bringing them up onto land and anesthetizing them and then measuring their length, getting their body weight, sewing a tag onto their fin and stuff, and then releasing them back where we got them. Coolest thing was, instead of trapping a moray eel, we trapped a conger eel, which is another species of eel that it's got these two little like pectoral fins, and it looks quite different, but they're really cool. You see these kind of scary, aggressive eels out there, but there's so many different kinds of eels, and it just kind of was just like, wow, this is such a cool one. And it was a lot more docile, tame, like a really chill eel for especially what we were doing. All the other ones were trying to bite us, but this one was just kind of chilling. It was just so cool to like be able to capture this eel that's a lot less prevalent in the area and harder to come by. And I was just like, wow, I felt like I just captured like a shiny Pokemon. Like, this is so cool. I just like, here we are.
You had done a series about eels. Was that related to what you had done there?
The videos I've done on eels so far have not been relating to the research that I did out there. Just videos kind of on an intro into what eels are. I think there's a lot of people that are really fascinated by the fact that we don't know how they reproduce. And as somebody who's done quite a bit of deep dive research into the whole lifespan and everything of eels, I was like, oh, maybe I can offer some insight. Specifically, the European eel, that is a freshwater species out in Europe, leaves the rivers and streams that they live in, come into the ocean, and then they swim all the way across the Atlantic into the Bermuda Triangle. And when they get there to the Sargasso Sea, we've never seen them mate in the wild. The other crazy thing that blows people's minds is that when you dissect an eel and open it up, there's no reproduction organs. They don't have any gonads. It's like, how are they reproducing? And so that kind of caused a lot of people to think that they're aliens, or, like they clone themselves, or, come out of the middle of the earth or something. Just because that we haven't seen them mate in the wild doesn't mean that we haven't seen them mate in a lab setting or other species how they mate. And we know how the other species mate. And so I would assume that in the wild, they do the exact same thing that they do in the lab and with other species, where they release gametes into the water column, and then they mix and create eggs, and then the eggs hatch, and they drift off and live their life. But when it comes to like not having reproductive organs, that question, I'm not sure if we have a 100% for sure answer, but I'm pretty sure that their internal organs kind of almost like change and morph into reproductive organs while they swim towards the Sargasso Sea. I haven't done too much on the reproduction because that wasn't what my research was on. That's kind of the extent. But yes, the videos I did hopefully just offered a little more insight, answering some people's questions, but I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of people out there that are still mind blown on eels.
I want to talk about what kind of inspired you to be a wildlife biologist.
Kind of grew up just loving animals and knowing I wanted to work with animals. I had two really cool opportunities of tour of the LA Zoo. Got to like meet monkeys and a hippo and got to interact with all these cool animals. And I was like, oh my god, this is so amazing. Like, I could do this for the rest of my life. Then I realized that a lot of working in zoos is also, at least when you start, is cleaning up after all the animals, which sounded pretty gross. The other really cool experience I got was when I was about 13, I got to do a career camp at the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach. Got to look at, meet and help out with all of the careers in the aquarium. And that seemed way cooler, and I was way more fascinated by marine animals, the evolutionary adaptations to live in water. I find it so interesting. Did that camp and just fell in love, and nothing else has ever intrigued me as much as biology. Moved on from that camp and started to volunteer at the aquarium and through high school, and then when I went off to college, I got my degree in biology.
I did a lot of volunteer in animal shelters when I was a lot younger. I was really invested in, like, oh my gosh, dogs and cats and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then as I got older and I figured out the more deeper and factual and real side of it, then that's kind of when it snapped to me that this is like a thing that I want to be doing forever.
It's one of those interests and subjects that, at least to me, and I'm sure you, the more you learn about it, the more interesting and fascinating it becomes. You can just keep going down this rabbit hole of any aspect of it, and it just gets more interesting as you go. I mean, we'll never know everything, but that makes it so cool, is that there's always something to look for.
It's there, and it's in front of us, and it's everywhere, and if you can look at that and be like, that's not interesting to me, that's so crazy, because the people that don't get it, they really just don't get it.
I think they don't get it, but I don't know if it's at a fault to them. Everybody can get it, maybe they just haven't been introduced to it in the right way, which is another like big reason as to why I started doing social media and educational content, is because I would watch these science YouTube videos or whatever, and they were interesting to me because I love this stuff, but I was a little bored at times because people, I feel like, weren't always hitting the mark on how entertaining and interesting it can be. I feel like there's a good level where you can introduce a really complex topic, break it down simply, and make it fun and educational for pretty much anybody. That's kind of my main goal, is to try to incorporate these complex topics in a really fun way that people not anywhere interested in biology would have a great time learning it and maybe get into it. I created this page. I started in my basement, which is why it's called Basement Biology. But I created this page in an effort to get adults interested in education again. I feel like you become an adult, get past high school or college or whatever, your education, formal education's done, and then you kind of just don't take any more classes. You don't take any more, science or biology or anything, and you kind of just move on, which is totally fine. But I think there's so many topics that are involved in specifically a political climate that you need to be informed on the environment to vote on how we should go about what we do with it. And there's so many climate change deniers out in the world, and they're all adults that don't believe in climate change, and it's it exists. You just haven't learned about it since you were in high school biology. Maybe don't have a fun way to learn about it. My basement biology page has been typically geared towards adults. I curse, I drink, I talk about reproduction in terms of just sex. I try to break it down to as less scientific jargon as possible, so that it can be fun but also educational. I think I do my best to drive home as many educational facts while making it fun. Hopefully with my page growing, I can still keep it fun, but introduce less insane topics like shark math. That is so incredibly fictional and never gonna happen. But it gets you involved and gets you kind of your foot in the door, so that hopefully you can learn later on more things.
My age demographic is obviously teenagers and young adults right now, just on my social media page. Eventually, hopefully, Eco Revival will pertain to everyone, and it's not just going to be an educational source. It'll be,
Right.
I'll be organizing projects, and I'll be the one that has the research to start these projects, and then other people can come volunteer with me for something that I started. But for now, it's kind of an educational basis. I'm not an adult yet, so I still have a lot of time to learn. You still have a lot of time to learn as an adult. Everyone does.
Oh, yeah.
We have shorter attention spans than goldfish now. We have a shorter than 12-second attention span. And with the evolution of social media and the convenience of how quick everything is, people have really lost their sense of adventure and will to learn more. Even in kids now, no one brings it up because environmentalism and climate change, it's now considered as political. It's not political. It defines
Exactly.
your morals as a person. If you can look at the state of the world and say that it's not a problem, that's not your view on politics. That's your morals as a human. And they need to be educated more. That's my goal. But right now they'll sit there and they'll order 20 shirts from Shein, and they'll sit there and they'll do this and they'll do that, and AI, no one thinks for themselves anymore, and everything's become so convenient that it's killed people's sense of adventure, and no one wants to learn anymore.
You make a really good point. I find it hard to think that people aren't as curious anymore. I think people are just fed so much information through the internet and social media, because you're right. I think attention spans are really low. The whole doom scrolling thing, where you can consume so much information at one time, it almost overloads your brain and you can't think about anything else. Curiosity maybe isn't fully gone, but it's just diminished because you're already just fed so much in such a short amount of time. But whether that information that you're being fed is really important is kind of negligent. Kids are just watching these videos that the foundation of the video doesn't really matter. They walk away and they're just oh yeah, I know so much about this brain rot culture. I know so much about all of this stuff, but is it actually going to serve a purpose in your life. Like, no, you can doom scroll for 2 hours and then be done, and your brain is overloaded with information, but none of it is useful. That's something that we're both trying to do, is create content that can be consumed that hopefully will be useful in some way later on in their life. People will say to make it big on TikTok, you have to post videos that are under a minute or 30 seconds long. You have to have a hook within the first 3 seconds, all these things to, cater to people's attention spans. But my videos that have been doing well are 3 to 4 minutes long. And I think if you just maybe present stuff in the right way, in the most curiosity feeding way, you can grab onto something. Somebody, like, I get so many comments on my videos that are just like, oh my god, you just fixed my attention span because I just watched this 4-minute video on how a raccoon got drunk in Virginia. And I think that's so important these days, is to adjust what we're consuming, or at least allowing the younger generation to consume. But even the older generation, I don't think the older generation is much better than we are, honestly. I think the Facebook moms are scrolling as well.
I have one more big question. I'm going to ask everyone that comes on here this, but everyone thinks they have to go big immediately. They think, I don't have a biology degree, I'm not a biologist, I can't do anything. That's my least favorite sentence. I'm one person, I can't do anything. You think about, there's 8 billion people saying that, and that's why nothing's changing. What would you say to the people watching this? What's something they can do right now in their everyday life to learn more and reduce their impact?
In their everyday life, I would say do your best to recycle a little more. Decide not to choose to buy something fast fashion like from Shein. I really try to spend a little extra money on the little better quality of clothing that will last me forever. Try to repair things yourself. But in terms of, if you're trying to get into biology and you think, oh my god, I need to get a degree for this, how do I even get a job, all of these things. I think if you have the time and you have the effort and the drive to, volunteer at a local animal shelter, aquarium, zoo, at a beach cleanup. Like, there's so many things that if you just Google search it, you will find an array of things that you can do. Go to a museum of natural history nearby. Go to your museum of natural history. That ticket that you pay for, that's like $10, the one that's nearby me, pretty much all of their profits go towards climate change resilience. Supporting your local farmers markets and stuff like that, instead of going to a grocery store. I think there's such little minor changes that if we made on a larger scale, it would create such an impact. Like you said, there's 8 billion people saying I can't do this. If we all said we can do this, we're just that much better. Because if you can do it in your day and then explain to the next person, hey, I've been doing this, I feel great. Okay, now that person's gonna do it. And it's a chain effect. A lot of people don't have the time or money or resources to volunteer, but if you can, it's so rewarding. The backstage stuff that people don't get to do when they just visit. You get to feed the animals and interact with them in ways that the general public just don't really get to do. And you learn so much, and it's so fascinating.
And just by being around people in the field and people that know what they're talking about, by immersing yourself fully in it, you learn so much just by being around people that know what they're talking about. I honestly think this was a great first episode. You were a great first guest, and I cannot express how grateful I am for the fact that you made the jump to be like, hey, I have no idea who this person is, but let's go on a podcast with no episodes. That was huge to me that someone decided, let's do it,
You say that, but I'm so, I am so flattered that you reached out and are like, I want to interview this person. This is so awesome. I'm stoked. Just how flattered you are, I am as well. This is so amazing. No, thanks for having me on. This is so fun.
Thank you guys for watching. Go check out his pages, his Basement Biology. I can link it if y'all want. This is available on YouTube and Spotify. This was the first episode. I think it was a great first episode. Thank you guys for watching, and check in for the next one.